There's still much we don't understand about the Old West. Official records were spotty while the frontier was being settled in the 19th century. Journalists of the day did a good job documenting major occurrences, but many things were still missed. This video explores a few intriguing, unsolved issues from the Wild West era. The Lost Cement Mine is a mythical gold vein located in the eastern Sierra Nevada of California. In 1857, two German men in a wagon train bound for California separated from the rest of the group and went on their own way after arriving in the Mono Lake region of central California. When they crossed the Sierra Nevada near the headwaters of the Owens River, they discovered a strange-looking rock ledge of red lava, packed with what seemed to be pure nuggets of gold cemented together. The ledge was so packed with the precious metal that one of the men didn't believe it to be real, laughing at the other as he stashed away about 10 pounds of the material to take with them. The believer drew a map of the location, and the two continued on their journey. Along the way, the disbeliever died, and the gold-laden traveler discarded the majority of the samples. After traversing the mountains, he followed the San Joaquin River to Millerton, a mining settlement in California. While traveling, the German became very ill and required treatment. He made his way to San Francisco, where a Dr. Randall diagnosed him with tuberculosis. With no money to pay the doctor for treatment and too ill to return to the treasure, he gave his caretaker the remaining gold, the map he'd made, and a comprehensive description. Dr. Randall shared this knowledge with a couple of his friends, and they all landed in Old Monoville in the spring of 1861. Randall's company began prospecting on a quarter section of land known as Pumice Flat, hiring extra men for assistance. The 120 acres were believed to be located about 8 miles north of Mammoth Canyon, near what became known as White Man's Camp. The word immediately spread, and miners crowded the area in search of the gold-laden crimson cement. According to one story, two members of Dr. Randall's party discovered the cement mine, stealing several thousands of dollars from the ledge. Unfortunately for those two men, the Owens Valley Indian War, which began in 1861, raged throughout the area. The Paiute indigenous tribe, who had historically been mostly peaceful, objected to the vast number of prospectors who had entered their territory. The two miners who supposedly had discovered the lost ledge were slain by the indigenous tribe before they could reveal its position. The cement outcropping was never discovered and remains a mystery to this day. In the center of the California desert, the Salton Sea now reflects the sky. Long before this unintentional lake was formed, a centuries-old mystery remained buried. The desert grabbed a prize, a Spanish galleon overflowing with black pearls, captured by the land's relentless grip. This fabled watercraft from the era when the Colorado River fed the massive prehistoric Lake Cahuilla depicts a time when riches were lost to the forces of nature. In the 1600s, during high tides, the remnants of Lake Cahuilla were claimed to be navigable, a fact that would seal the destiny of Spanish explorer Ita. In service to the Spanish crown, he aimed to find pearls. Ita traveled into the Gulf of California, an area of water known for its abundant pearl beds. Here, he made a fortune in pearls, filling his ship to the brim with these dazzling gems. During a pearl-collecting voyage in 1615, the ship was washed up in an estuary and into Lake Cahuilla by an extremely high tide. Ita was trapped as the tide receded and the lake dried, forcing him to choose between his riches and pearls and his crew's safety. Choosing survival, he abandoned his ship in the desert scripts, laying the groundwork for one of the Wild West's most unique legends. The story of the lost pearl ship was revived decades later by novelist Antonio de Blanco, who in 1933 chronicled the account of Torrio Manera 3 centuries before. Manera, who worked for explorer Juan Baptista de Anza, purportedly discovered black pearls and a desert-bound shipwreck. This discovery, thought to be a Torba lost vessel, prompted Manera to abandon his original quest to pursue the rest of the ship's wealth. The tale of the desert pearls lasted until the 1800s, enthralling dozens of explorers, but the ship escaped discovery. However, the local Jacobson family claimed a breakthrough in the early 1900s, claiming that a windstorm exposed the ship's masts, allowing them to excavate and sell its buried treasures. Their claim remains unsubstantiated. The Salton Sea's sands are said to contain more than simply a Torba galleon. Details of a Viking longship and a stranded riverboat add to the tradition, presenting a picture of a desert formerly traversed by a variety of vessels, each with its own story and each meeting a mysterious end. On a seemingly regular day in 1890, the residents of Tombstone, Arizona were drawn into a narrative of myth and mystery. Their local newspaper, the Tombstone Epitaph, reported an encounter that blurred the line between legend and truth, causing amazement and astonishment throughout the little frontier town. The main page featured a horrific narrative of humanity battling a horrible entity. According to the account, two ranchmen met a giant bird with a wingspan of about 160 feet. Initially terrified, these men turned their anxiety into determination, beginning on a mission to capture this flying leviathan. After a heart-pounding chase, they reportedly succeeded in downing the huge creature, described as an alligator-like beast with a lengthy tail and massive wings. The monster aroused both intrigue and mistrust. However, the carcass, which was meant to be shipped to the East for scientific study, never arrived in Tombstone. The story took another turn when Harry McClure claimed to know the cowboys from his youth. According to McClure, the experience was less dramatic. He saw a giant flying creature with a 30-foot wingspan, far from the gigantic size originally described. Despite the men's attempts to shoot the creature, it escaped and vanished into the desert sky, leaving only a narrative behind. This incredible story may have gone into obscurity, a mere footnote in Tombstone history, if not for an unexpected twist involving a missing photograph. In 1963, writer Jack Pearl revived interest in this old myth in an article for Saga magazine. He added a crucial detail missing from the original account: the availability of a photograph that reportedly depicted the men holding their downed monster. Pearl said that this photo accompanied the initial story, sparking a heated search and widespread remembrance among the people. Despite claims of sightings and publications like Fate and National Geographic, no tangible evidence of the photograph could be produced. The photo's mystery has sparked wild speculation and conspiracy theories. Some speculated that time travelers had intervened, removing the photograph from history. As far-fetched as these notions were, they added layers to the enigma, enthralling both believers and doubters. Eventually, the opinion shifted to the snapshot being a figment of the collective imagination. Nonetheless, like the bird itself, the Thunderbird photo legend lives on in fans' minds, an everlasting emblem of the thin line between fiction and truth that continues to perplex believers today. Stories about the alleged hairy ape man stalking the forests of the American West have circulated for hundreds of years. For ages, indigenous tribes in the Pacific Northwest have passed down stories about a supposed Sasquatch beast. Even before European settlers traveled west, Bigfoot was a well-known phenomenon that appeared to exist outside of human contact. In the 1800s, there were semi-regular reports of Bigfoot in frontier newspapers. One publication boldly stated that the Pacific Northwest's uncharted forests were brimming with giant wild men and wood apes. Accounts described his apparent size, the reported fact that he walked upright, and even how he allegedly smelled bad. One ancient Spokane report referred to him as the bad-smelling tree man. By the end of the 19th century, Bigfoot had become a popular topic in Oregon too. In 1865, a man named George Gibbs started recording indigenous people's stories about the beast. Some colonizers dismissed these stories as mere myths. However, around the beginning of the 20th century, official sightings of the hairy man-beast began to emerge. Since then, Bigfoot's legend has expanded to its current state. Of course, it's possible that this legend is simply a hoax. However, it's not a product of modern times. During the Wild West era, both the indigenous people and European settlers were aware of Bigfoot. Pearl Hart was a Canadian woman who attended finishing school as a teacher and appeared to be on the right road. But something detoured her along the way, and as a young lady, she fell in with a bad crowd. She met renowned gambler Fred Hart when she was only 17 years old. The couple had 2 children, but their relationship deteriorated and they went their separate ways in 1898. Pearl soon met a new man named Joe Boot. After a short courtship, she and Boot embarked on a year-long robbery spree across Arizona. Most notably, they carried out one of the last roadside stagecoach robberies recorded in American West history. Their story made national headlines for one reason. Hart had cut her hair and disguised herself as a man to aid in robberies and pillage. The local sheriff in a rural Arizona county said that when the pair was apprehended, Boot surrendered quietly. Hart, however, fought back and had to be carried to jail by force. When the media learned about Pearl Hart's gender-bending clothing and robbery tendencies, her story was published all over the country. In the dying days of the Old West, the thought of a prim and correct woman cutting her hair, dressing like a man, and pulling pistols on stagecoach riders was enticing. Boot received 30 years in prison for his troubles, but Hart was released after only a handful. She could have walked out of jail and led a quiet life. But Hart first attempted to market a one-person performance detailing her banditry days shortly after her 1902 release. This, however, did not appeal to the general population. Pearl returned to crime and was soon arrested again in 1904. But here's where the mystery becomes really interesting. Hart simply vanished upon her release, never to be heard from again. A small-town resident in Arizona claimed to have seen her in 1924, and a census taker in 1940 claimed she was living contentedly under an assumed name, but both of these claims are unproven. Historians believe she died in the 1950s or 1960s, though no one is certain. Despite her larger-than-life renegade image, Hart's later life remains a strange black hole. If you have made it this far into the video, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you haven't done so already.